Calling back to what Sri Malhotra mentioned earlier in the panel discussion, let there be transparency on what the government does. While this is part of the larger endeavor of public consultation that Civis harbors in our practice, an important part of this would be to make transparent the ways in which we have constructed the awards today. Right now, I would love to take each one of you through what the process of creating our public consultation awards were. A little bit on the methodology that we adopted and what was the ethos, the process, and where do we go from here. Citizen feedback has in fact been core to the discussion today. But the story of public opinion and how it has shaped our law has been as old as our nation and the bedrock of our governance, our constitution. Something that Shri Zainul Bhai mentioned was that our future of the nation is rooted in public consultation. However, I would like to call back to the past a little bit, to the draft constitution in 1948, when I don't know if all of us know this, even as people who are in the space of policy, law or governance, or those who may not be, that the draft constitution was in fact open for public consultation for around half a year before it became the document that shapes our rights and a lot more. It received public feedback extensively, not just from regular citizens, but often groups like judges of the High Court that shaped the judicial changes of the Indian Constitution. Thus, our history has been peppered with the flavor of citizen participation since time immemorial almost. The awards embody this very ethos, that citizen participation in lawmaking is not only principally aligned with the theory of a modern nation, but that this governance model is a win-win for every stakeholder. It gives governments the ability to tap into diverse insights, enabling a more robust and evidence-based policy making, and it allows citizens to adapt to the upcoming laws, making its implementation as smooth as possible. This, in fact, is evidence from the rapid adoption of consultation. It has grown and how since 2014, which was the year of the PLCP, to today. We have seen a whopping 2,112.5% growth in the adoption of consultation in laws and policies across the country. While this adoption has not been uniform, certain sectors have had an exponential increase. This includes sectors like finance, energy, and social justice, and we hope that that percolates a lot more in the years to come. This was an overview of the consultation landscape in our country, but it is important because it has informed the way we have constructed the methodology and process of Civis Public Consultation Awards. In our work, Civis regularly sources all public consultations that occur in the country, be it at the national, state, or local levels. We ensure that this net be cast not just widely, but accurately. And we blend sourcing methods by the team with using digital tools that aid this process. Through this, we have gathered 288 consultations that occurred in the financial year 2023 to 24 that were all assessed for this edition of the awards. The assessment was undertaken by our team, along with a team of volunteers, which were ably taught master students in governance and policy making, but the final evaluation was by a panel of esteemed public administrators that formed our jury. Our jury comprised of Dr. M.S. Sahu, whom you heard from earlier this evening. Dr. Sahu is the founder of Dr. Sahu Regulatory Chambers, and he is the former founding chairperson of the Insolvency and Bankruptcy Board of India. He has also been the former chairperson of the Securities and Exchange Board of India. He is recognized as a very prominent voice in financial and market regulations, and he has also been a part of our award since its inception even last year. He was joined this year by Dr. Ajay Shah, Senior Research Fellow and co-founder of the XKDR Forum. He has held several key positions in the government, including positions at the Center for Monitoring Indian Economy, the Indira Gandhi Institute for Developmental Research, along with the Department of Economic Affairs. In addition to this, you might have seen Dr. Shah in his several public appearances and his video podcast, Everything is Everything, and his very, very special book on Indian public policy. Lastly, but not the least, we had Srimati Snehalata Srivastava, who is present with us here today. She was former Secretary General of Lok Sabha and was the first woman to hold this post, along with a slew of other prestigious positions in the central government, including being the Secretary of the Department of Justice and the Special and Additional Secretary of the Department of Financial Services across 35 years of being in the Indian Administrative Services. Now, the ways in which we measured these consultations along with our jury were not an effort on blank slate, but were informed by best practices that preceded our work. Primarily, the pre-legislative consultation policy that has been mentioned several times this evening has formed the bedrock for our methodology. Supported, of course, by several international publications that are based in practical and on-ground research and diverse perspectives, like the OECD's Practitioner's Guide for Engaging Stakeholders in the Rulemaking Process, and the Public Consultation Index, published in UNDP's Assessing Public Participation in Policy-Making Processes report. All of these came together in different aspects. However, they were cohesively blended to create a 10 criteria calculation matrix. The first 4 criteria of these 10 looked at how the document being put out for public consultation was drafted, including if it provided a reason for its introduction in the first place, whether it outlined who it impacts and how, whether it gives you exactly what the action that this law and policy is going to take, and whether it's clear from its framing, and whether it is easy for an average citizen like you or me to understand its intent and content. All of these principles of clear drafting were directly borrowed from the PLCP. The next set of criteria looked at whether there was enough scope given for citizens to respond. This includes whether the consultation was open for sufficient time, which the PLCP says is an ideal of 30 days. And another consideration was whether sufficient outreach was conducted, which includes whether the right audience was reached through methods like print media, the internet, and social media. Inclusivity was, of course, very, very important in this process because it determines which individuals and whether these individuals were from different walks of life and were enabled to respond to these consultations. Here, of course, a key measure was language and transcending these barriers. This looked at whether the document was translated into different languages and, of course, whether they were made available through digital and analog methods, given the necessary calculation of digital accessibility. The last measure, of course, was regarding the close of a consultation, which is equally, if not the most important. This made room to understand if government bodies shared comments, responses, and notes of the process of the public consultation and what was the way forward for this draft law or policy, making it transparent to the public what was going to happen with their feedback. As each of the 288 consultations we assessed were run through these metrics, there emerged 25 nominees that we will be showcasing with you tonight. These nominees are present across 5 categories. The first 3 categories are the categories of best consultation by a central government ministry, best consultation by a state government, and best consultation by a statutory body. While these 3 awards recognize consultations for their overall processes, we also had 2 special mentions which commended consultations on specific parts of their life cycle. This included, first, the special mention for citizen government engagement. This award acknowledges the excellence of a consultation body in embodying the spirit of engaging with citizens. Here, we had to look at whether outreach was conducted to the necessary stakeholders, whether the most affected stakeholders were charted out effectively, and whether they were given a diverse set of opportunities to respond. And the last award for the evening is a special mention on responsive governance. This commendation is to be bestowed upon a consultation body that stands out for its commitment to responsive governance. This includes having an open and participative platform, adapting their processes based on public feedback, and fostering a governance model that is not only transparent, but also highly receptive to the needs and perspectives of the citizens it serves. These award metrics and categories could not have been created by us alone, and we were assisted by some brilliant amici to the awards. They had intersectional research backgrounds, the first of which is TrustBridge Rule of Law Foundation. This is a non-profit research organization that works on improving the rule of law to engender better economic outcomes for India. Their assistance deeply shaped our processes on analyzing the impact assessment for each consultation. We would like to thank the team led by Dr. Renuka Sane that carried out this deeply granular exercise with our team. We also had Ms. Eloise Gabadou, a consultant with the OECD, an organization whose principles have helped shape our methodology in transformative ways. Her inputs ensured that our methodology was backed by global evolution of consultation, and she has aided us in charting the path forward for the awards. While Civis Public Consultation Awards are still very much at its nascent stages, this being only our second edition, we recognize that this journey is a long and arduous one because we aim to further refine this methodology. However, it remains an extremely rewarding one, where the result is a co-created future for India's governance that benefits us all.